Welcome. I am Kristen McAllister. I am one of the two owners here at Cerius Executives, and we provide a lot of content and thought leadership as part of what we do here at Cerius. And I don't think I've ever been more passionate about a thought leadership series as I am about the Cerius HR today. Over the past year, we have seen an increased trend in companies needing to level up their human capital capabilities. This is one of the many drivers leading HR to be one of the fastest evolving areas of a company. We want to make it easier to stay up to date on the latest changes. What was true and compliant on Tuesday isn't necessarily true and compliant on Thursday. So we created Cerius HR today in order to help keep up to date. I think it was 2 months ago, we had Darren Chiappada talk about creating a safer space and work. And I don't know how, but he made workplace compliance and safety fun. Point we're probably going to have him back for a second session. Last month, I talked about turning leadership titles into leadership teams. And today we are talking about advancements in HR technology and generative AR or AI. I'm thinking accounting right now with our HR technology thought leader, Vega. And Kara, before we jump in, I want to give a little bit of background on kind of your experiences. You and I have known each other for years, and you've got really a global CHRO background. You've worked with startups to multi-billion-dollar corporations. You specialize really in navigating complex workforce transitions that usually come out of M&A restructurings, rapid growth, and particularly technology deployments. When it's not going as planned, you get the phone call, especially when they're looking at how do we leverage AI and redesign our processes and our workflows. I know you've worked with companies large and small, from Vitech Videocom, DTZ, it used to be Cushman and Wakefield, 20th Century Fox, and Sony Pictures. As long as I've known you, you've been at the forefront of finding human capital solutions that can work in fast-paced, dynamic environments. You're often invited to speak at global HR technology conferences, and we are thrilled to have you here today. I know we've got a lot going on, a lot of interaction. We will get through as much as we can. Thank you so much for joining us, Kara.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and look forward to spending the next, little bit of time with everyone. And I look forward to seeing where everyone is at in their current state today. And hopefully you'll walk away today, at the very least, with something that you can utilize in your own role for the betterment of your particular role. But, ideally, it would be great to walk away with the ability to implement additional technology, especially around AI, to make the whole HR functioning at a different level than its current state, and also help your organizations through this AI transition. So I want to start off by just talking about how AI can be leveraged within HR. And I think an important key to talk about is what exactly is AI. So there's a lot of different opinion on the definition of between AI and generative AI. So I kind of wanted to start there for a moment. It's definitely transforming the way we do business in all different capacities, but really HR is at the forefront of that, not only from a function and team perspective, but helping the organization and the employee workforce make this transition and all the things that come along with that. So we're going to get into a little bit more detail, especially around talent acquisition and talent development, because those are two of the key areas. There's a lot of ways of making improvements with AI, and we could be here all day if we wanted to really go in depth into all of those. So those are the two that I chose to go into more in depth, but I am going to cover a lot of other topics as well. So as I said, the two that are the buzzwords, right, is AI and generative AI, and utilizing those in HR. What's the difference? So if you think of AI has been around for a while, right? And it really wasn't until about the end of 2022 when ChatGPT came onto the scene that really we started talking about generative AI. And most companies, if you know, in the conversations that I've been having, really didn't start thinking about this seriously until sometime in 2023, whether it be the latter part of it or the middle. But AI in HR is what we're going to focus on versus the entire business as far as the definition goes. So AI primarily focuses on automating repetitive tasks, analyzing data, providing insights, and it enhances efficiency and accuracy in lots of different functions. The difference between AI and generative AI is concentrating on creating new content and doing that in a personalized way. So enhancing creativity, engagement in HR processes, such as training, communication, job description formulation. And one of the things that you can think about is that when this is actually occurring, these large language models are becoming smarter and smarter, but at the same time, they can become what we call dumber, right? So the things that we're utilizing from a generative AI perspective, it's really important, and we'll get into some of the nuances that, us as HR professionals need to take a look at and make sure that we're incorporating within our technology. Okay, so I think we all are very familiar with some of the challenges that we currently have, or really just traditionally have always had, right? HR is a very labor-intensive function. Most people, once you become at, a higher level, you do want to focus on the more strategic aspects of what HR has to offer. But there's still a lot of tactical transactional parts of HR that are, really important, and employees and including executives don't really care about the big stuff if, people aren't getting their paychecks, right? So if you think about all the things that we could be doing to increase efficiency and enhance those processes so that we really can focus on the more value add, programs and processes that HR has to offer. So, very time consuming, labor intensive as far as people and as far as process goes, subjective in the decision making when it comes to, performance management, inconsistencies in, what someone believes someone's performance is. There's bias that comes with that. And we'll talk about bias that also comes with AI as well, and how to combat that as well. I think the other thing too is it has never been, as Kristen had mentioned, I've always been at global companies. One of the challenges that you have is when you're looking at things from a holistic standpoint, whether it be, multiple states or whether it be multiple locations, and especially if you're in a global presence with multiple countries, you have the local nuances, and you're looking to, be able to do that in a way that you can have an overall philosophy that is, the same, or that you can at least have that core philosophy, and then you need to be able to localize it. Not only from a cultural standpoint, but a language standpoint. And I cannot tell you that from an AI perspective, being able to do that is really a game changer as far as the amount of time that it saves. And really to take all those things into consideration when you are looking at policy development, and being able to do that, to enhance the diversity, not only within your population, but then also, from your global presence. Okay, so chatbots. So I think a lot of us are very familiar with chatbots. Either you have engaged in them because of your shopping experience, your own, job experience. Chatbots have been around for, quite some time, and they definitely enhance the employment experience. There's a lot of different ways that chatbots can be used. It's probably one of the most popular areas that already have been implemented in some companies, I won't say all because there's plenty of them that, I know companies that don't even utilize an ATS system, right? So, there's a wide variety of where people are at in their current state. As we had already spoke about a little bit, a big part of it is about automating repetitive tasks. I don't know what's going on. It's talking about repeating. There's been a few times where I'm clearly repeating words on my slides. So task, there you go, twice. So, AI powered tools can automate a lot of the burden from an administration standpoint. And we'll talk a little bit further when we get into, especially around talent development, but there's lots of different areas, payroll, communication, etc. So streamlining paperwork, intelligent scheduling. I know a lot of people use. It has saved a ton of time when it comes to, meetings, interviews, whatever the case may be, scheduling and allowing people to have that automated scheduling and being able to, instead of, going back and forth via email or phone calls or whatever the case is, automated payroll, smart document management. So one of the things that I find the most important in an organization is around communication. And I think whether or not you have an internal communication department or whether or not that falls within the HR function, doesn't matter. It's really important that from a human capital perspective that we're communicating at a level in which all employees feel, included, no matter what their level is. And so I think one of the things that really AI can help with is in being able to help with communication. A lot of HR professionals that I speak to, it's a challenge, right? You want to be able to send out a newsletter, or you want to be able to send out communication proactively addressing all the things that you're working on. But it's, again, labor intensive, it's time consuming. Being able to do that and doing it on a regular cadence. AI is unbelievable when it comes to helping you with, communication and what that looks like. So again, back to chatbots, that's a form of communication, enhanced feedback loop. So whether an employee is getting on-time, consistent feedback through AI, and then also automated HR workflows. Back to what we had talked about before, looking at sensitivity. If I wanted to right now, I could pull up any of them. And one thing I do want to say is anything I say today, I'm representing my own opinion, not any of the clients that I've worked for or any of the companies that I've been in-house with as well. Of course, some of my experience is influenced by that, but I do want to say that because I tend to pull, different things, and I do want to be able to say that. But if you were to want to translate a document in 30 languages, you literally could do that in about 30 minutes, maybe less. Now, it may need some, enhancement and whatnot. And of course, I would not recommend using things that are just straight from any kind of AI interaction, and that you obviously put your own work on that. And there's lots of errors that come out of AI, which we'll get into as well. Kristen's going to send out a poll right now, or just want to talk about, where are we at, right? So how familiar you are with AI applications and HR. Just trying to get a sense of, who's on the call today, and it'll help steer some of the conversation that we're about to have.
Perfect. It is coming in quick, and you've got probably about 2/3. Everyone here is somewhat familiar, with just over about 15% very familiar, 15% not very familiar, 10% not at all. So we've got that somewhat familiar bell-shaped curve there. But I think it's interesting to, Carrie, you always tell me it's nice to know that you're in good company. So if you're just at the beginning of your journey or in the middle of it, we've got a quarter of the group here that is not at all familiar, not very familiar with, looks like the other 75% somewhat familiar, very familiar.
Okay. Great. Well, the good news is I'll sprinkle in some, personal preferences with things. Again, if I mention particular AI companies or tools, I don't work for them. I don't get any kickbacks. It's really just a matter of my own knowledge, and there's plenty of them out there. In fact, I think it's one of the things that can be very overwhelming because there are so many choices on the market. So it's about finding, what works for you and your particular organization, and also the current state that you're in. Also, statistically here, I've added some things throughout the entire presentation today, and really it's taking a conglomerate of information and putting it together as far as statistics. So this was from a couple different surveys, and the current state of AI in HR shows at a 68% adoption rate. Now, to what extent, we can get into that a little bit. And with AI proving to be 72% effective in talent acquisition and 76% effective in employee engagement. If we could put up the poll about what people, if they are using AI, where they're using it in HR today, that would be great.
We're seeing it. I can see as soon as I saw that 72% effective in talent acquisition, we're seeing it in the results here as well. You're almost 2/3, twice as much as anything else is being used in recruitment and hiring.
Recruitment. Okay, good, great. Well, good, because that's one of the areas that we're going to dive into a little bit deeper. I would say so. AI has been around, within talent acquisition for quite some time, and of course around just an ATS system, right? But that AI versus the generative AI and making it a personal experience for candidates, there's still a lot of areas in which a lot of companies that are using some sort of AI with an ATS system or just, in general, there's an additional amount of areas that you can still implement to make it better. And we're going to go through some of that. Okay, so I'm still going through like a few other ways that you can use it, but leveraging AI for talent acquisition, so intelligent screening. So you can use AI to be able to screen candidates, not even necessarily having that human interaction. That can be done through chatbots, that can be done through different ways. You can go all the way to having video interviews. Not necessarily with a recruiter on the other end. So providing questions and having them answer. There's analytics behind body language and how a candidate is answering certain questions, and you get all the statistics that are associated with that. There's many different ways to use AI within talent acquisition. I think a big part, if I was a company that had answered that I wasn't utilizing AI at all today, I've come across some really amazing standalone HR practitioners recently that are using AI, and it's not necessarily that it's been adopted in their company, but they're using it, without the confidentiality data, but still utilizing it. And one of them is just around job descriptions, right? If you think back to the day, how long it takes to put together job descriptions, many companies don't even have a formalized job description on file. It is really amazing, the job descriptions that can be produced within a matter of seconds. And I want to stop here just for a second and go a little bit into, if you're utilizing, whether it be ChatGPT, I happen to use ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. Those are kind of my three top that I currently use. Doesn't mean that I haven't used others or that I won't continue to explore others. I think it depends on the task. One of the things that I like is I like to know where the data comes from. So if I am doing, let's use the example of a job description. If I'm throwing it out there and I want them to create a basis of a job description for, an HR business partner, putting that into Perplexity will give me the job description. It tends to speak in more simpler language, but it also tells you exactly where it got it from. And if there's articles or other documents or whatnot, you can then click on those and read away should you want to. ChatGPT obviously is one of the smartest and more robust, and Claude is another one. I would just say from an HR perspective, it tends to give really good data. And so, those are some of the ones that I use. But if you only just use that for yourself to help you with some of the administrative tasks that come along with your everyday job, and regardless of what level you're at, I mean, at the CHRO level, I've been at many organizations where I've, still had to do a lot of tactical transactional work because that's where they're at in their current state and their process. And had I been utilizing AI, for many of those roles, I would have definitely been able to save a lot of time. So the one other thing that I want to talk about is this bias mitigating in hiring. So one of the things that AI does provide us is it does provide the ability to strictly look at things analytically and not anything to do with my own unconscious bias. Everyone has them, whatever that case may be, when you're interviewing, one-on-one, person to person, and what does that look like? So it is a big reason why companies are moving towards a more automated recruitment process, but also then the feedback in general from candidates has been very positive, and they like a more personalized, interaction. Not meaning that it's not personalized when you speak to someone one-on-one, because of course it is, but meaning they're having that, automatic feedback. Okay, they're not a good fit for the job, or, they've closed the role, whatever the case may be, having that, immediate communication. Going as far as, which we'll get into a little bit further, pairing them with other jobs that might be better suited for their experience. Maybe they're not understanding exactly where they should be at with their current experience, or where that could be best utilized. And then also, predictive analytics. So, being able to look at the AI-driven analytics and seeing which candidates would most likely succeed in a role, enabling HR to be able to have that data and look at it is definitely something that is very helpful. I will say throughout, most of the things that I'm going to talk about today, it really is so important to keep that human oversight part of the process. A big part of what we do is it can't be taught necessarily with a machine. It is very important to still have that oversight so that there is not additional biases that come out of it. I mean, one of the things is that, from a diversity standpoint, there are some complaints on whether or not AI is really incorporating what it all needs to at this point in the current state. So as we talked about enhancing the candidate experience, I think that's one of the things that is most positive for those organizations that have been utilizing AI within their talent acquisition processes. So, resume screening, anyone that's using an ATS system, that's already happening for you, right? So that's the kind of AI that we were talking about before, right? That is and has been in use for quite some time. The conversational chatbots, you can be able to communicate with a chatbot and have them respond right away. It can be, if someone's looking for a job at midnight, most of us have gone home by then, so you're not going to get a response, but a chatbot's going to be able to respond right back to them. And that including, HR information as well. Just additional information on predictive analytics and workforce planning really, really can help with some of the strategic work that we need to do. Thinking about our plan, how we want to be able to align that with where we want to be, whether it be, short-term, long-term, medium-term, aligned with the organizational goals that we have. And really being able to put those workforce planning, together. Very helpful, and especially on analyzing data. Identifying skill gaps with AI insights. So again, this is going back to whether it be from a candidate perspective, whether it be someone already within the company, looking at your skill mapping, how we want to put together our career pathing, and what does that look like, the competencies, your future focused insights. That's getting a little bit into the talent development. and being able to identify specific targeted training and recommendations. Let's see. So personalized learning and development. So this is just another area, and we'll get further into this as well. I think, again, looking at performance management, giving objective feedback, goal tracking, continuous improvement, being able to, really utilize this in all parts of the employee life cycle as they join the company and as they continue within the company, and even when they exit. One of the areas that people don't really talk about with AI currently is something that can be utilized is, exit interview data and analyzing that within seconds, across the board. So, all right, okay, we're going to get further into talent acquisition. I know I already spoke quite a bit about it, but there's some other things that I want to get into. So again, personalized job recommendations with AI. This is one of the things that candidates are really benefiting from and really like, both internally. So if it's an internal movement, and having employees be able to see, well, what is it that they need to do to be able to get to the next level, to make a career change into another part of the organization. AI can tell someone, right, analyzing their skills and experience, and looking at that holistically, and really let them know where is it that they should be focused, and even go as far as the skills gap analysis, in which they're identifying what is it that they need to do, and even go ahead and put together a plan for them, right, on how it is that they're going to get there. Things that we spend a lot of time on in HR, and is normally a pretty manual process. I mean, of course, there's lots of technology that has existed. Some organizations have their own, performance management systems and ATS that speak to one another, but a lot of people don't. So AI-driven candidate screening and evaluation. So again, the automated screening, skills assessment, intelligent interviews, and predictive analytics. We spoke about that earlier. It is improving employee engagement and having that sentiment analysis. One of the things that we haven't spoken about at great length is, pulse surveys. So pulse surveys are great. It gives you really good information quickly, short. Not only can AI produce those for you, that you can then, of course, tweak to be most aligned with what you're trying to accomplish from that survey and the end result, but also be able to actually analyze the surveys, including free-flowing comments. So again, we have to get back into whether or not an organization is allowing you to do that, and we'll talk about that, in a little bit here. But it really is about, taking that workload off. Now, in some cases, you do have an organization that does that for you. You have the technology behind it, and that's great. So then it's already producing all the analytics you already need. But there's lots and lots of organizations that HR is doing this manually, and they're bringing in the pulse surveys. They're getting some data from however it is that they're doing it, whatever tool they're utilizing, but then really being able to pick out the key themes, where are the areas that we need to concentrate on, and putting together the plan takes a little bit more time, and especially on free flowing. A lot of times, I know I can speak from my own experience. You leave out the free-flowing comments because you don't necessarily want to have all of that data to be able to analyze coming in. With AI, you can throw it in to any of the models, and it will analyze it for you and be able to summarize it from an executive standpoint, so that you can then go have the conversations with managers, leadership, and put together what it is that needs to happen within the organization and help you through your game plan going forward. So when someone is hired, onboarding and integration, I think, there, again, depending on the ATS system, depending on the HRIS system that you currently have, There's varied degrees on how automated that is. I can say that unless your HRIS system has embraced some of the generative AI capabilities, there's still a difference between what can be produced from an AI perspective and what can be produced from a normal HRIS system and ATS system. So depending, many of them, thing from like Workday, etc., they've already made that change, and there's a lot of things that come along with that. But I know from experience with working with many different organizations that it is also about being able to take that module, change, whatever the case may be, and actually be able to implement it within your organization. Just because it's available with your current HRIS, it doesn't mean that you've had the ability or the time, to be able to actually implement that and go live with some of the enhancements that they currently are offering. Sourcing and outreach, definitely proactive sourcing. It's pretty amazing what AI can do to be able to outreach to candidates across the board. So they might be at a conference, they might be, LinkedIn, they may be, and really being able to funnel all that information into a digestible format in which you're able to reach out to people and then do all the things that we normally do when it comes to talent acquisition. And being able to do that on a mass scale from a personalized perspective so that someone is feeling that one-on-one attention, even though it really isn't happening from a one-on-one perspective. And then building those talent pipelines so that you're ready when there should be some changes within the organization. So we talked briefly about enhancing the candidate experience. One of the things is, having that 24/7 support. We already talked about that. Streamline application. I think, definitely the feedback from candidates, no matter what the level is if it takes them too long to fill out an application, you're losing a big percentage of your talent pool, not because they're not talented, not because they're probably the great, perfect candidate, but they just don't want to take the time to do it. And especially when there are candidates out there that feel that there is not the feedback that's coming back to them in a timely manner regarding their candidacy. And so there's a lot of improved engagement with that. So predictive analytics and decision support. So again, looking at that predictive hiring, looking at the bias reduction and making informed decisions, which we spoke about earlier. I think one of the greatest things that come out of this, it's interesting. I mean, every organization is very different on analytics. I am a really, really big believer in analyzing data and making informed decisions on that data. But in order to do that, we got to have the good data, right, to be able to analyze. And then most HR don't have the luxury of having an analytical person that's sitting within HR. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you have your, business analytics. But again, where we fall from an HR perspective versus the rest of the organization. So this is really allowing the entire HR team to be upskilled, to be looking at data in a different way and analyzing it, utilizing AI to be able to do analytical work and reporting, make sure HR metrics, whether it be for talent acquisition, which is what we're talking about, talent development, no matter what the metrics are that you're looking to get, the pulse surveys that we talked about earlier, it absolutely is a game changer in shaving off a significant amount of time, but also not everyone has the most advanced Excel skills or Google Sheets or whatever the case may be, whatever your organization is using. Let's get into a few things. I know we're coming up here on the time where we want to have the ability to have some time for Q&A. So I'll go through a few more things here. So ethical considerations in AI powered HR, right? So this is something that comes up and quite often. organizations are building their own, right, to be able to have that confidentiality where it's not outflowing out back to the large language models. But most of them are doing that by building it upon other people's platforms, and they're partnering with them, of course. But the ethical considerations in AI, we do have to think about. So fairness and transparency, ensuring that the AI HR decisions are unbiased and the decision-making process is transparent to employees. Data privacy and security, we know, especially if you only take California as a state where I'm based, or if you look at things from European and GDPR, on a global scale, I mean, there are so many things that you have to take into consideration regarding data privacy and security. So of course, this is something that you want to be able to take a look at. And then to be able to explain the algorithms that are being utilized with whatever tool that you are using, that you can be able to explain that to employees and adoption. And then responsible AI adoption, engage in ongoing monitoring and evaluating. That's really, really key as well. And then we talked about this already, but really cannot stress enough. It is about having that human AI collaboration. It's so important to have people within HR with our expertise looking and partnering with the technology. It's not a standalone and then whatever it produces, you just, roll out. There has to be the oversight. There are things that come out that are not accurate. There are things called hallucinations and also drifting that happens. And you got to remember, these large language models are learning based upon usage. So if someone is saying that information that was produced is good, then that is making the system think that that information was good. We only want to be, giving it a thumbs up or saying that it's good if it actually is good, so that the models become smarter and smarter. We talked about Excel, etc. Okay, so sorry, this slide's a little bit busy here, but most of them are. So this was the rise in talent acquisition. We kind of talked about this briefly, but 78%, right, believe in AI. 60% of organizations have already implemented them. 45% of HR professionals report improved candidate quality, reduction in time to hire for sure. 35. A lot of companies I've spoken to are much higher than that with their improved time. 89% of job seekers prefer personalized AI enhanced experience. So we're going to talk a little bit about talent development here. So beyond recruitment, as I mentioned, I mean, there's many, many different forms, and we talked about that in the beginning, but one of the other key areas where HR tends to spend a lot of time, and it isn't usually it's high on the priority list, but not from a monetary perspective and a budgetary standpoint. It's difficult to necessarily get the funds associated with really, truly having good talent development within an organization. So really utilizing AI to be able to have these technologies really transforming and having that personal touch to the employees, having that career pathing, personalized learning paths for every single individual, regardless of what level they're at. I'm a big fan of gamification platforms. I've utilized those within companies, and having those micro learning moments for people by able to play games on their phone and deal with compliance training. So this takes it to a whole nother level, in that it's being able to really see whether or not that training works for Mark, and the way that Mark actually looks at information, and what is it that he specifically needs. So let's see, skill gaps. We talked about that already, and learning development plans. So simulated learning environment. So I also come from a world where I have worked with a lot of entertainment companies, and when VR meaning virtual reality, was coming onto the scene, and being able to utilize that for content creation and movies and television shows. But if you take a look at simulated learning environments, and it was literally a matter of, they wanted to be able to reduce the customer accidents that were happening within the stores. They're very costly. Workers' comp, very costly. And so putting someone, whether it be through the interview process, and they had to do simulated learning, or within the business. So they're putting on their VR, headset. You're going into the environment as if you're standing in a store. There's a slip and fall that happens. And what do? They literally use that to be able to train people on what to do versus waiting until someone actually slips and falls and what that looks like. Now, that's just an example I happen to know, again, but they are very proactive with being on the forefront of technology. And you wouldn't necessarily think that with, being the organization that they are, but they, really have always taken it to another level. So in this case, they're showing that the AI simulations really can provide immersive training environments. I had been working with an organization during COVID, and we had a lot of global locations. And with that, we weren't able to get together, right? There wasn't traveling happening. There wasn't. And so we used Oculuses, and they were sent out to every employee and every consultant at the time. And, we're able to put them on and have meetings and play darts and snowball fights, and also then do team building and activities by, running through different environments and being able to do that using virtual reality in conjunction with AI. Really can, take you to a whole nother level. And people think, oh, that's really expensive. But if you really look at the breakdown, it tends to actually be a lot cheaper, because you're being able to put them in an environment, give them the training that they need to be successful in their job from, the get-go. So let's see here. So I think we went through a lot of this. So experimentation and innovation, I can't really stress this enough. My advice is go experiment, even if that's on your personal computer, on your personal time, of course, not taking into consideration any actual real life examples from your company, but really experiment. I mean, as I said, I tend to use more than one model at a time, so that I can, look at the results and see what I like, best for that particular case. And then I go ahead and I spend the time, putting in all my expertise and knowledge. And I would really recommend you do the same. Experiment at the outcomes. So the benefits of AI in HR, we talked about, personalized experiences, improved accuracy. A lot of people want to talk about that there are these nuances that come with using AI. There is inaccurate information that it does produce. There are biases. There are things that do come out sometimes in the results. But human error is actually much higher in that data entry, putting in, specific data, carrying that through. Even when you're utilizing an ATS system or you're utilizing a payroll system that could be very advanced, there's still some data that is, and human involvement in entering into that data. So, you have to look at the cost savings versus productivity. And then, of course, operational efficiency. I mean, not only do we have to think about, being on the forefront of, what we want to be able to do from a human capital perspective and an HR function, but we also have to be those gatekeepers for AI, utilizing it within the business, right? I get asked this question quite often. What if an organization does not want any AI in use? It's really important to be able to have some sort of policy, whether that be you can't use it for these particular things. I think it's unrealistic to think that every employee in any organization is not using AI, even if they're using it on their own personal time to enhance their ability to do their job better. So if that's the case, it's better to put parameters around it even if it means that you're not, as an organization, embracing it holistically quite yet. But AI is here to stay. And I would definitely say that it's just a matter of, there always is going to be risk involved, but there's risks in everything that we do on a daily basis. So embrace the generative AI for successful adoption. And this is what I would encourage. I know we got to go to Q&A, so we're going to just spend 2 minutes on this. Really take a moment and think about the things that you need to know and ask those questions. Write them down. Specific use cases, potential risks, enhancing the HR function for your organization. What do you want that to look like? What are the concerns around data privacy and security? Really ask as many questions as you can. The ethical considerations, that's a big one. Training and support. Okay, we got the technology, but with any technology, if you don't have the skill set within the organization to be able to utilize that technology in the most efficient and effective way, the technology is useless, right? You have to have a good process, you have to have good guidelines around, and then making sure you're engaging and training the workforce, not only for those people that are going to be using the AI on a daily basis, but then on the output. So if HR is rolling out a bunch of AI, right, it's about, proactively communicating, engaging the workforce on what it is that they want to see, and being able to do that in the most successful way. Tips for successful implementation, right? Understand the specific needs, adequate training, pilot test. I can't stress this enough. Try it out. Doesn't work? Great. Try it again. Try another thing. Even if it's a matter of simple communication through ChatGPT, try it out, right? These are talking about holistically, if you're implementing AI from a holistic standpoint, change management plan to address any resistant or challenges. It is a big change for organizations and for employees. There's a lot of angst and uncertainty around that and what that means for people's jobs. Establish key KPIs to measure the impact of AI and the outcomes, and then regularly evaluate the tools and making sure that it continues to work for you. So the conclusion and key takeaways: it absolutely has the potential to be transformative for HR. In my opinion, it's a game changer. Think about the innovation and the approach, the ethical considerations, and most importantly, this does not mean that HR is going away. It means that there has to be a really strong collaboration and partnership with the technology, and that's key for it to be successful.
Thank you. I want to open up the chat at this point. I see that for any additional Q&A, I have no doubt we're going to get a few questions on which do you recommend for what. There were a couple questions that came up during it, Kara, that I think you addressed in even before you got there on the data privacy of it, how companies are using the ethical, the legal, how can you legally protect, I think it was how legally defensible are these AI tools? And I think we'll leave that to the legal experts. There was one question here in some of the stats you gave that asked the difference between, you said 72% percentage effective in talent acquisition. When you're gathering stats like that, what's the difference between 72% of the companies have adopted AI versus 72 it's effective, say it is effective in talent acquisition?
Yeah, so let me go to, for example, like in here, there's a couple case studies, but if you look at Unilever by way of example, right? If you look at, they reduced the time to hire by 75% for their company, right? Very, very large organization, from 4 months to just 4 weeks, by enhancing their recruitment efficiency. The diversity and inclusion, the AI tools save Unilever over 50,000 hours of interviewing time. Imagine that, 50,000. Do you know what I could do with 50,000 hours? That's a lot, right? So going back to the question, it really is about, out of the organizations that have been utilizing it, 72% have been successful out of the organizations that are using it. And I can probably go back to the slide, and I think it was the adoption rate was 68%. So out of 68%, of those people surveyed, right? And I did look at multiple surveys so that, I could put that together versus relying just on one, because I do like to look at things holistically. And that really was, the common number that kept coming up.
Love it. And Donna's got a great question. What are the most important skill sets for HR leaders given the rise of AI? Are there new roles on the horizon in response to selection, implementation, the analytics piece?
Yeah, I mean, that is a really great question. This is what I would say is that, just like with any other technology that has, come into play, you have to be willing to adapt and change with the technology that we're being given today, right? So I would say it's not necessarily that the roles are going to change, in that roles are going to go away. There probably will be a few roles that will go away, but what that looks like at each organization is going to be different. But it really is going to be able to make the department so much more efficient. I have yet to run into HR departments that are just so staffed that they just have all this time on their hands. And so if we reduce, certain areas of the HR function and be more efficient, well, that means that there's going to be job elimination. I don't foresee it that way. It's not to say that a particular company doesn't have that, but it's really about embracing the change, being open. I would highly recommend, you've already taken a step here today. We're talking about things. This should just, get the wheels turning. And there are so many classes, certifications. They're now coming on to the, I'm in one now. You can get certified within AI, right? So look for those kinds of things. Try to join, just even on LinkedIn, getting some of the AI newsletters and staying on top of it. But really the most important thing I would say is just go out and try it. Try it on, if your company isn't utilizing it now, go spend, some time on your, own personal device, and try using AI and get used to it yourself. And really, it's like anything. I think it's really actually going to just help HR become at the next level, right? We already have a seat at the table. That should be a given. It's really about then, getting some of the tactical transactional stuff off the plate, but also enhancing the ability for our managers to also spend time managing. So many of the things that we do in HR, the feedback from the business is, oh, we have to do that. Oh, we have to, right? We don't want that. We want it to be that they're excited about using things because it's fast and it's easy and it's accurate. Yeah, so.
Real quick, I've got one question here. Does Cerius utilize AI in HR recruitment process? I'd say not beyond what is out there on LinkedIn. We have done exactly what Kara has suggested. We have tested, we have investigated, we have innovated, and I will tell you that two pools of individuals, clients that are CEOs and business owners, and candidates that are executives, it is a highly personalized, and all of the personalization tools out there are not made for CEOs and executives. So we use it on a very, very, very limited basis in the background. We have a great question here, Kara. What apps or tools do you recommend for downloading on personal devices to try on your own? So if you were to say, go get these three and play with them, what would those be?
So for me personally, it would be ChatGPT. Just start with the free version. Right now it's 3.5, but they are offering for 4.0 for a limited time. It's enough. It's plenty. I wouldn't pay for the paid version yet. Like, get yourself used to whether or not it helps you. Perplexity, especially if you want to be able to quote, where you're getting data from, or even read more further on whatever it is that you do. And then Claude, Claude. Now, the thing that's really more of a US centric, they did roll it out in Europe, I want to say last week. It's not available in Canada yet. So, but all those things come. I think the other thing too that I would recommend, is being able to try out lots of them, whether it be, a presentation tool, whether it be, there's so many that allow you to try things out for free. Do that, try whatever it is, the problem that you're trying to solve. Try it out. Really, people have been amazed at what it can do. And throw in some fake data. You can even start with ChatGPT to ask them for fake data. Say, oh, I want to, I'm looking at a global corporation with 30 locations, 150 employees, 50 managers, blah blah blah, and then ask them questions. It's all about the prompting and being able to, and when I say that, and I'm sorry, I know I'm going long, but this is an important key, that part that I hadn't actually stated. When you're doing any kind of prompt within any of the systems to be able to get the output, it's really important to be contextualized and being able to say as much context as you can, repeat yourself over and over, keeping in mind that the machine is learning as everyone utilizes it. So I think that's really important. There's a couple models out there. One of them is called Race. A lot of the marketing folks use that. But really just come up with your own strategy on how it is that you get the best results. Another one is to ask it what questions and data do they need, meaning, ChatGPT or Perplexity or whoever, what they need to be able to give the best results.
We are going to, I know we could go on for hours. We're
I'm
taking
sorry.
20 years of HR technology and pushing it in. As a reminder, we do have this recorded. We will be posting it on our YouTube Get Cerius channel. And survey will go out. We're always looking to say, how can we improve Cerius HR today, make it a value to those who are joining us. Any input, especially on future topics, is greatly appreciated. And Kara, thank you so much for your time, your wealth of knowledge, and everyone for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.